Same day as what happened at the start of chapter 24, which is the resurrection. Same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. So, well, 7 miles? How long does it take to walk 7 miles? I suppose probably 3 hours, something like that. And by verse 29, it says, when they get to the end of their journey, they say to Jesus, come on, stay. It's nearly getting dark. The day's almost over. So say, if it took them 7 miles to walk, well, maybe they set off after lunch on Easter Sunday. But up to that point, it has been a really eventful day for them so far. It's been an extraordinary day. The day has started off by, we know what happened on Easter Sunday, don't they? But they tell Jesus, verse 22, they say to him, look, some of our women, they went down to the tomb early. They didn't find the body. And then verse 24, some of the companions also went and found the tomb, just like the women had said. And we know from reading some of the other Gospels who those companions were, Peter and John. They went down to the tomb when it was empty. And so they must have come back and said, well, the tomb is empty. And then these two disciples, they left. They didn't know what happened after that. They've just went off to Emmaus. And they are perplexed and confused and downcast. And it's really just been a great big day of disappointment. And that's what they're talking about. Verse 14, it says they're talking with each other about everything that happened. Gosh, Jesus' body, what's happened to it? We don't know. He's died. And into all of this confusion and disappointment and pain and sadness, verse 15, as they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up. It's very interesting. I think Jesus doesn't go, ta-da! Hey, you guys, it's me. I think that's what I would have done if I was Jesus. Hey, but he doesn't. He just listens. He just comes and he's just with them. He just asks questions. He says, look, verse 17, what are you guys talking about? What are you discussing together as you walk along? And you can tell how upset they are. It says they stood still, their faces downcast. They were so sad. And there's almost even anger as well, isn't there? Verse 18. Cleopas says, are you the only one visiting who doesn't know? Have you been living under a rock? How have you not heard about what's happened this weekend? Jesus being killed. And there's so much pain and so much despair. But Jesus, I love the way he's so patient with them. He doesn't dive in straight away and start talking. He just draws out. He wants to listen. He just wants to be with them and hear their story. And so by coming alongside them and being present with them, their faces, he lifts their faces. Their faces are downcast. But by the end of it, just by being with them, they go from being in despair to being full of hope. And just his presence by the end of the journey, they don't want him to leave. It says, verse 29, they thought he was going to go further. But verse 29, they urged him strongly, stay with us. They just wanted him to be with them. They loved his presence with them. It lifted their faces. And I'm sure, I don't know whether that's you this morning. I don't know whether any of us here are feeling our faces a bit downcast. And we've just got our own pain and confusion and despair. Well, wouldn't it be amazing if Jesus did what he did for these two, just came up and drew alongside them and was with them and lifted their faces? Well, that's what he does do. That is what he does for each. His Spirit is with us. Come on, say it again. The Lord is here. His Spirit is here. He's with us and he lifts our faces just by being with us. That's what happened on the Emmaus Road. But he didn't just lift their faces. Secondly, he opened their eyes. And part of the reason why their faces were so downcast was because that actually, in a sense, they were spiritually blind, or at least blinkered. Because they weren't able to see who Jesus was at the start of the journey, were they? Verse 16, it says they were kept from recognizing him. But they also, not only did they not physically recognize him, spiritually, they actually didn't really understand who Jesus was bringing. And they really had misplaced expectations, and they had a hope that he was going to do something. One, they said to him, oh, look, we hoped he was going to redeem Israel. And that was their hope. And what they were really hoping for was some sort of political revolution. They thought what they were hoping for was Jesus is going to, he's going to turn up on his horse and he's going to overthrow the Romans. He's going to bring freedom. He's going to be like some sort of Braveheart. He's going to come and just make everything better. And so when Jesus didn't do that, actually, did he? And really, when Jesus died, therefore, they thought, he's failed. And really what Jesus says to them is, look, you have misunderstood. You actually not really quite understood what my whole message was all about. Jesus says to them, verse 25, how foolish you are. How slow to believe all the prophets have spoken. He says, haven't you read the Bible? Don't you know the Old Testament? That's not what kind of a Messiah I'm coming to be. I'm not going to be, riding in on a war horse and killing all the baddies. I actually read the Old Testament. It says the baddies. They didn't get it. Really what they didn't understand was why did Jesus die? They hadn't been to Alpha. If you come to Alpha, week 3, isn't it? Why did Jesus die? That's the big question. They don't think they didn't really understand. Why did Jesus die? And I think we can get right into the same sort of trouble today when we think that really what Jesus is all about is solving my problems in the here and now. We think Jesus like he's some kind of guardian angel. Some kind of lucky charm we wear around our neck, and he's going to be a force field. He's going to stop anything going wrong. But then when it does go wrong, what if you do get sick or get COVID or get furloughed or fired or dumped or depressed or something goes wrong? What do we do then? We think, well, Jesus, hang on a minute. I thought you were supposed to be powerful. That's what I thought. Verse 19, I said we thought he was powerful, but we didn't understand his power. We hoped he was going to redeem us. But he is powerful, and he has redeemed us. But it's not the way they thought. They needed to understand the message of the cross, and actually true spiritual sight, you see, because they didn't understand. But by the end, I think they'd understood why the cross wasn't a defeat, but it was actually a victory. And that's what true spiritual understanding means. Paul, he wrote the letter in the Philippians. He says, I want to know Christ and to know the power of his resurrection and to participate in his sufferings, becoming like him in his death, and so somehow attaining to the resurrection of the dead. And actually that's the path of following Jesus today, is one of suffering now, glory later, isn't it? Jesus says, verse 26, did not the Messiah have to suffer these things and then enter his glory? That's Jesus' path, and it's our path as well. And he needed to open their eyes. How